Hey there, nation. Welcome to the show. We show you how to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Chiefskate, and welcome to another edition of Age of the Realms. This is Battle Report number 14. This is a match play battle of 2,000 points between myself and my Wild Hunt Sylvaneth army versus my buddy Scream of the Emo of the House of Von Koss, which is a Flesh Eater Quartz army. So this is the same guy who almost took it to me last time we played against him back in Age of the Realms. This time we're doing with match play, however, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with 2,000 points of Sylvaneth stacking against 2,000 points of Flesh Eaters. And let's see what happens on this battle report. Alright, so let's talk about the Wild Hunt. That's my 2,000 point Sylvaneth army. For my leaders, we have Durthu. He's a Spirit of Durthu. He's my general with the Gift of Giran, as well as the Oaken Armor. Next comes Coadil. He's my Tree Lord Ancient with Rhinu's Lemon Entry. He's also equipped with the Tree Song Deepwood Lore. After that, we have Shyvana the Shadow. She's my branch with. She's equipped with the Wraith Stone and has the Reaping, which is another Deep Lore spell. And the Briar Maven, who's my branch Wraith, who's got the Hagbane Spite and also the Verdant Blessing Deepwood Lore spell. For my units, I have 3 units of Kurnoth Hunters, all equipped with Cunt Masters and Great Bows. That's the Troop of Dawn, the Troop of Dusk, as well as the Troop of Twilight. We also have 3 units of 10 Dryads, each equipped with the Branch Nymph as well, which is the Court of Summers, the Court of Winters, as well as the Court of Tides. And finally, we have the Court of Heralds, which are 5 Tree Remnants with Scion, Glade Banner, and Waypipes. And for my battalions on this one, I have 3 of them in this army. I have a Free Spirits Battalion, a Forest Folk Battalion, as well as a Household Battalion. So that makes it my 2,000 point army on this one. Alright, so let's talk about my buddy Scream of the Emos, the House of Von Koss. It is a 2,000 point Flesh Eater Quartz army. For his leaders, he has Marduk Von Koss and Volkar. He is a Strigoi Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. He is his army's general. He has the Death Incarnate command ability as well as the Sword of Unholy Power. He also has the Beast of Blutfall, which is a Varkov courtier as well. For his units, he has 3 units of 20 Crypt Ghouls with Crypt Ghast. This is the House of Von Koss, the House of Balefire, and the House of Drakenfels. He also has the Ravenous, which are 6 Crypt Horrors with a Crypt Haunter, and the Crimson Sky, which are 3 Crypt Flares with Crypt Infernal. For his behemoths, he has the Rot Shrai, which is a Terrorgeist, and for his battalions, he's running a Charnel Pit Carrion Battalion, which is kind of a rough one because those guys get mad bonuses when they get next to that Charnel Pit. So, kind of interesting to see how this battle report goes. So, that's 2,000 points for Scream of the Emo. On to deployment. Alright, so here's the battlefield. In this one, we're fighting on our 4x6 table. As you can see, I got a lot of Sylvaneth Wildwood spread throughout. And as you can see in that line there in the center there, that line of trees, those 3 right down in the center portion of the board, that's where my Sylvaneth Wildwood is located at on that one, just in front of those ruins there. So that's what the battlefield looks like. And this is where I basically run into my first speed bump when it comes along my plan. My opponent, who has a Charnel Pit Carrion Battalion, is allowed to claim a piece of terrain after everything is set up as his Charnel Pit. Basically, receives bonuses for any units that get within reside in that area. So that's why we have that little pit terrain piece, as you can see right there as well. What he decides to do is also to claim that Sylvaneth Wildwood that's located there, the center lines I usually use for my army. He decides to claim that as his Charnel Pit as well. So I do receive bonuses still by you being inside the Sylvaneth Wildwood in that part, but he also receives bonuses as well. So right now I'm already starting to see a little monkey wrench being thrown into my plans. My buddy Screaming the Emo. So that part was kind of cool. So with the battlefield being deployed, let's go directly to the deployment phase for our armies.
Assemble the army!
Alright, so this is deployment for this battle. As you can see here, we deployed basically into a L-shaped pattern. That was the deployment that my buddy decided to use. He wanted to one off on that part. My dice kind of abandoned me on the deployment, as well as the type of battlefield we were fighting on as well. So that card was kind of rough. As you can see there, he's kind of located there on the far side of the board. I'm looking on the near side. Let's go ahead and zoom into the individual deployment areas so that we can talk about how our armies are laid out for this one. Alright, so here's the plan for the Sylvaneth army. As you can see in this picture, I basically just deployed my guys right there in the bottom Sylvaneth that's right outside of my own Sylvaneth forest. We're located in the center of the board. And the reason why that is the case is because my opponent's claimed that as his Charnel Pit Carrion as well, so that's kind of rough. So you can see there, I deployed my Household Battalion. I have Coadil, my Tree Mate Ancient, as well as Shyvana the Shadows, who's my branch Witch, as well as my Court of Heralds are located there as well. That way I kind of deploy so that way I can start summoning up Sylvaneth Wildwoods because I'm going to have to readjust my plan instead of using that center portion like I originally wanted to. I'm gonna have to readjust it because that bonuses that those flesh eaters get when they get to that Charnel Pit, it's just outrageous. So I'm gonna start thinking of a new plan to defeat them. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the Flesh Eaters deployment. This is their left-hand side here. As you can see there, we have that huge big miniature by Reaper Mini. That's Rot Shrai. That's his Terrorgeist. That's just a plain regular Terrorgeist located there. Up on the hill, we have his Crimson Skies, which are 3 Crypt Infernals. On the right-hand side, there you also have the House of Balefire, which are his 20 Crypt Ghouls located there with Ghast as well. So that makes the deployment on his left-hand side here. And here's his deployment in the center. As you can see, the rest of his army is just located right there in those ruins. Make up to the left-hand side there in the back. As you can see, there's the House of Balefire. There's another 20 crypt goals. Up front is the House Drakenfels. There's another 20 crypt goals. Make up his front line portions there is that unit of 6 crypt horrors, the Ravenous, which looks pretty bad back over there. In the back there, with that represented by that little pumpkin dude wearing the scythe, that's his proxy that we're using for his Vargulf Courier, actually. That's what's his name? The Beast of Blutfall is where he's located out there in the back there. On the other side of that wall, we have his general, which is Marduk von Koss, as well as Volkar. That's his Ghoul King mounted on a Terrorgeist as well. So that makes him his deployment there in the center portion. And with that, we go directly to the battle rounds. Alright, this is the top of battle round number 1 for the Flesh Eaters. This is after the movement, the command phase. You can see there basically just start sending everything as quickly as you can towards my household battalion rules. And that's basically kind of like the plan I'm trying to go for. The reason why is because I realized that Sylvaneth Wildwood that I deployed right there in the center of the board is no longer be able to be used because he put his Charnel Pit over there as well, so he gets some bonuses for being in there. So what I'm going to do is now is redivert his forces as quickly as I can and try to get out of there as quickly as I can and basically just kind of make him spend the entire game kind of chasing me around until I can get into combats where I could actually do some good. So you can see there pretty much everything just comes bum rushing forward as quickly as they can, and that's pretty much about it at this point. Here's a close-up of his crypt horrors trying to go as quickly as they can and try to secure the 7th Bob with the Charnel Pit and locating the side of it as well. He also got the ability to be able to both run and charge, as well as gaining a +1 armor save as well, using various command abilities as well as Mystic Shields. So those guys are now kind of like totally buffed up at that point now. So there's definitely no way I'm going to go inside those forests to try to take those because I really don't want to fight those guys here. Fight those guys with all those bonuses that they get. And here's a close-up of both his Crimson Skies as well as his Rotshire, as well as his House of Balefire. All those guys are kind of rushing forward as well, trying to get closer to my household battalion. So, and as you see it in the ruins on the right-hand side, he also moves at the houses of the House of Drakenfels, as well as the House of Koss. He also moves at those huge units of Crypt Horrors as well. So they're just kind of just mobbing in through those ruins, heading towards my household battalion. So, with that out of the way, we go directly to the top of the bottom. Sorry, the bottom of battle number 1 for the Sylvaneth on this one. Alright, so here's the bottom of battle round number 1 for the Sylvaneth after the command phase. You can see that I used Durthu's ability to basically call up another series of Sylvaneth Wildwoods. I put it there in the right hand corner, finally get that kind of ability off and set that up there in that area. The reason why is, like I said before, I'm going to have to readjust my position that I'm located on the battlefield just because that Sylvaneth Wildwood with the Carrion Pit is such a disastrous piece of terrain for me to get involved in. So with that, we start going into the movement phase on that part. Alright, in the movement phase, I basically just sum up the entirety of my forces. What I start deploying my guys in the various Sylvaneth force surrounded by on the battlefield. As you can see on the left-hand side, I have my Free Folk Battalion located there. On the right-hand side, I have both my Household Battalion as well as my Forest Spirit Battalion, also kind of Forest Folk Battalion, located in that newly summoned Sylvaneth Wildwood that I put up there on the right-hand side there. So now I got my opponent kind of like in a pincer attack. That way I can get them caught in the middle of a crossfire, open up with them with my range attacks, maybe engage them on 2 different fronts as well, and kind of spread out his forces. So that's moving on this side of the board. As you can see here on the right hand side, I have both my Household Battalion as well as my Forest Folk Battalion located at those Sylvaneth Wildwoods. I got Coed on the back there with my Branch Rich as well as my Branch Wraith, Briar Maven, as well as Shyvana of the Shadows. They're kind of tucked back there as well. I got my 3 units of 10 Dryads, the Courts of Tides, Courts of Summer, Court of Winter. Excuse me, located in that front side there to kind of take on anything that comes advancing towards them. And on the very far right hand side there, I got my Court of Heralds, my 5 Tree Revenants is kind of like holding the flank right there. So that's moving on this side of the board. And over here in the upper left-hand corner of the board, I have my Free Folk Battalion. So I have all 3 of my units of my Kurnoth Hunters, the Troop of Dawn, Dusk, as well as Twilight. I also got Dearth located there as well. So that way they're kind of occupying it. That way they can also start opening fire with their Great Bows, as well as a Verdant Blast on my opponent's general for Marduk von Koss, as well as Volkar, so I can start taking out his general and get rid of him pretty quickly. So yeah, that's pretty much me with this side of the board. With moving over to go directly to the shooting phase. During the shooting phase, you managed to put 11 wounds onto both Marduk von Koss and Volkar as well. So that guy's pretty much close to dead. He's about 3 wounds away from actually dying out, so that part's kind of sad. But I was hoping to finish him off, but unfortunately, I just wasn't able to pull it off. So, however, I have made him pretty much combat ineffective with all the wounds that he sustained. His ability to do combat and be very lethal in close combat is kind of dropped significantly, so that part's kind of cool as well. And since there's no charging or combats going on here because I'm not engaging in combat on his terms, we go directly to the top of battle round number 2. Alright, so that takes us to the top of battle round number 2. As you can see, we roll for initiative. The Flesh Eaters get it, and during the command phase, my opponent pretty much brings the pain on this part. He uses his ability, which is called the Sword of Unholy Power. Now, when you look at the General's rulebook on that rule, basically a handbook on that, it just basically says you can summon up units with a death keyword on it, but there's no real, answer or really clear cut set of rules about what he can and can't summon in that part. So we decided to do whatever he wanted to because that's the way the rules are written. So in that case, what he does is he starts summoning up another Terrorgeist with a Strigoi Ghoul King mounted on top of him as well. And he basically deploys right here in the back in the upper left hand corner to where both Badurthu as well as my Free Folk Battalion is located at. So that's kind of crazy because those guys are tough. Meanwhile, here in the center of the board, he gives up his another command phase again, gives another one of his command abilities to that unit of Crypt Horrors as well, where they both get to run and charge in the same turn. He also gives a +1 save with Mystic Shielding as well, so those guys will start moving on the run as well. So with command out of the way, we go directly into the movement phase. Alright, during the movement phase, he basically divides up his forces in half and sends them on either end of the battlefield at this point. So you can see in the top part there, he sends a couple of his Crypt Ghoul units up there to help attack my Free Folk Battalion, kind of get them engaged in close combat while he has that newly summoned Strigoi Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist up there in the left-hand corner. And as you can see, he pretty much sends another unit of his ghouls to secure that Sylvaneth forest right there in the middle before sending off his general up on Volkar as well as Marduk von Koss. He moves up there to the left-hand flank, moves up his Vargulf Courtier. He also moves up his entire unit of Crypt Horrors. He also on the left, bottom right-hand corner, moves up his Crypt Flares as well as his other Terrorgeists as well to start engaging us in close combat that part. So as you can see, there's forces just kind of like dividing in half and going to either end of the board at this point. Here's a close-up of both his general, his Vargulf Courtier, as well as that unit of Crypt Horrors charging to the main ranks, and that's going to be kind of rough because those units can be pretty deadly in close combat, and my Dryads don't really have much in the way of support at this point, so that part's kind of rough. Over in the left-hand corner of the board, you can see a close-up of his newly summoned Struggle Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, moving closer to Dirth in order to get in range of this Death Streak offensive ability. On the bottom there, you can also see one of his units of Crypt Ghouls, the House of Balefire, kind of moving up. Sorry, not House Balefire. The House of Koss also moving closer to my Kurnoth Hunters, so that part's going to be kind of rough. As you can see in this picture as well, he's got the rest of his gold movements moving up as well. At the left-hand side there, you have the House of Balefire also moving up to start engaging that my Free Folk Battalion as well. You also can see that the House of Drakenfels is now fully occupied. That Sylvaneth Wall was there in the center. As you can see in the bottom there, there's a close-up of his Crypt Flares as well as his Rotshrai, the other Tiregeist, moving up on the right-hand side. So that pretty much makes up movement on this side of the board. In the shooting phase, he opens up this Death Streak ability onto Durthu and manages to put 7 wounds on that poor guy. So that was kind of rough, man. I was not expecting that whatsoever. He rolled like out of the box. I think he rolled like a 13 or a 14 with his 3d6 and basically put that difference of mortal wounds right on top of Durthu. So that part was really rough as well. Kind of like, oh my god, did not realize how powerful that Death Streak ability was. So definitely now afraid of Terrorgeist now, wherever they may come. In the charge phases, he just sends his newly summoned Strigoi Ghoul King on Terrorgeist and charges him directly into Durthu. Basically wants to punish him off in combat. I'm pretty thinking what's going on there in that time. And as you can see on the right hand side there, the House of Von Koss, that unit of 20 ghouls, also charges into my unit of Kurnoth Hunters as well. So that part's looking kind of grim on that part. So that makes it the charge phase on this side of the board. However, on the right-hand side of the board, his charge did not go off not as well as the rest of his army has. His Crypt Horrors were unable to make contact with the main line of Dryads I have located there, so his general, Marduk von Koss, as well as his Terrorgeist, Marduk, as well as his the Beast of Blutwald, his Vargulf Courtier, basically had the charge unsupported directly into my Tree Revenants. And I'm kind of afraid for that combat because Tree Revenants aren't that really good at close combat. And from my experience out there, I mean, they're decent, but they're not as good as they possibly could be. You kind of use them more as kind of like redirectors or use them to attack like exposed flanks or make them attack war machines, that kind of thing. So it's kind of just see how they stack up against a wounded Terrorgeist as with a Struggle King on top, as well as a Vargulf. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, this is a photo of this side of the board after combat phase as well as after battle shock tests. As you can see in this photo, pretty much my guys pretty much dominated on those Crypt Ghouls. Between the attacks, my Kurnoth Hunters able to unleash. We just destroyed like a bunch of those guys as well, plus the stomps that came afterwards. Pretty brutal on that part, so because of that, most of House Von Koss basically ran away when they did their battle shock test, and they're pretty much gone to the last man on that part. So that part was pretty epic. My Kurnoth Hunters did an excellent job in defending themselves on that part. However, when it came between Durthu as well as newly summoned Terrorgeist, not so well. I only managed to inflict 2 wounds on that Terrorgeist, and that Terrorgeist brought me all the way up to 11 wounds on Durthu. One more hit, and that poor guy is going to be dead on sight. So that's kind of rough on that part, so I'm not looking forward to that whatsoever. So, rough times to be alive for Durthu. As you can see on this right hand side here on this part of the battlefield, the fight between my tree revenants as well as Volkar, Marduk von Koss, as well as his Beast of Blutvold was entirely in my opponent's favor. They just curb stomped on my poor tree revenants. They were unable to defend themselves or attack back in that process. That unit is now completely destroyed. So that's kind of rough. So with combat fully done, we go to the bottom of battle round, turn number 2. Alright, so the beginning of the command phase for battle round number 2 for the Sylvaneth, as you can see in this picture, I summon up another Sylvaneth Wildwoods, kind of make up the little right position there, so that way I have a line of Sylvaneth Wildwoods that my opponent will need to charge in order to get to my main lines, hopefully cause some dangerous terrain tests. Also, if I cast off any spells, I get additional help with some of the attacks I can get done with some mortal wounds in that part, so that's the command phase on this side of the board. On the command phase, this side I use Durthu's what you call it, the gifted ground ability to help him heal up on his wounds. And since he's within a Sylvaneth Wildwoods, he heals up D3 mortal wounds. So that part was kind of nice. Dropped him back down to 9 wounds on top of him now, so it's a little bit better. It's not as big as it could be, but it's enough now for help out Durthu survive a little bit better. So I'll take what I can get. Meanwhile, I also cast the Deepwood Lore spell Tree Song ability. I basically move that entire line of Sylvaneth Wildwoods back 10 inches. So you can see there, I basically just take that entire unit of Crypt Horrors with their Charnel Pit and push them back an additional 10 inches as well. So it kind of puts them out of position to help me give any main supporting attacks. So, like before, like I said, with that spell, it's wonderful for denying your enemy any of their ability to engage you in close combat. And so that's what I did, is just kind of leasing the number of units he has charging towards me, so that way I can fight on my own terms in that part. So, with command phase over, we go directly to the movement phase. Alright, so here's a shot of the movement phase after command phase. I forgot to show it too, I forgot to mention this, but on the left hand side there, if you notice, my opponent's general, Marduk von Koss, as well as his Terror guys, Volkar, are completely off the table. And the reason why is because I cast Arcane Bolt using, I believe, is my branch, which is the one I cast that spell with. So because of that, I managed to put D3 mortal wounds on that guy, put 3 of them on there, managed to finish off that general as well. I forgot to mention that as well. So, but anyways, also I forgot to mention too that I took a photo of Briar Raven using her Acorn of Ages spell, basically, where she gets to drop off and grow another Sylvaneth Wildwood. I forgot to mention I did that too, so sorry about that part. But anyways, with that being over with, this is a picture of the movement phase. You can see I teleported my Free Folk Battalion away out of that Sylvaneth Wildwood on the left-hand side and brought over here on the right-hand side to kind of get him out of combat with that newly summoned Terror guys, as well as those Crypt Horrors as well. So now my entire army is now kind of laid off here in this upper right-hand corner. I got my Dryads taking up the center there. I got my Kurnoth Hunters holding down the flanks. I also got Durthu kind of tucked in the back there, so that way he can heal up on this part. So yeah, that pretty much makes them moving on this side of the board. Alright, during the shooting phase, the Troop of Twilight, which is my Kurnoth Hunters located there at the top part of the board, they open up on the Beast of Blutvold. The shooting was actually kind of mediocre on this one. I also completely missed my Treemate entry when it came to the shooting as well, so they only managed to put, I think, 3 or 4 wounds, I forgot which one it was, onto that Vorgulf Courtier. So he's not exactly dead, but he's been severely weakened at this point. So, like I said before, I'll take what I can get. And over here on the right hand side, both the troops of Dusk and Dawn open up with their Kurnoth Great Bows, manage to put 6 wounds onto Rotshry, this other Terror Geist as well. So we got 1 Terror Geist now, we got 2 more to go, and I'm definitely afraid of that Deathly Shriek ability. So it's kind of rough. So I'm gonna try to will it down as much as I possibly can before they get a little close combat with me. So yeah, with shooting phase over, no close combat being done, we go directly to the top of turn number 3. Alright, there's a turbo battle round number 3 for the Flesh Eaters after both movement as well as command phases. As you can see here, basically just starts moving everything as quickly as he can, as per usual, moving everything up as quickly as he can. Basically, he's got a lot of ground to recover. He's got 3 units of ghouls that are out of position because of my movement shenanigans, as well as teleporting his troops across the board using my Deepwood Lore spell for Tree Song. As you can see on the right hand side there, his flyers, which is both his Terrorgeist as well as his unit of Crypt Flares. They're moving up there to locate to do battle there on my right hand flank there. As you can see, he moves up his center line with his Crypt Horrors, getting ready to charge into my center line as well. On the far left hand side there, he still has his Vargulf kind of moving into the next, Dryads I nearly summoned the last round, in the last battle round. You can see in the upper top of the page, he moves up, runs up his Strigol Gulking on Terrorgeist as quickly as he can onto those back end of the ruins there, so that way he can charge and start helping out as well. So that pretty much makes up movement and command on this one. Now, this picture was taken after the shooting phase. This is actually a photo of what happened in the charge phase. We forgot to take the shooting page photo on this one because we're just kind of getting into the battle and we forgot to take photos of it. So we apologize ahead of time. As you can see in this photo, though, basically his Rotshry, his Terror guy, screams at my unit of the Troop of Dawn, which is located on the bottom right-hand side there. Managed to kill one of my Kurnoth Hunters and then put a floating wound onto the second one as well. In the charge phase, he flew with his Red Rotshry over my unit of Kurnoth Hunter straight directly to Durthu there in the back. As goal as I think is to finish off my Durthu character. As you can see along the entire rest of this page on this photo, he charges in his Crypt Flares, also charges in his Corptors as well as his Varghulf Courtier into that unit of summoned Dryads on the top of the page. So that makes a charge on this one, and with charges done, we go directly to the combat phase. All right, here's a close-up of his Varghulf as well as his six Critors charging into my Court of Wonders as well as my newly summoned unit of Dryads as well. So that's kind of tough. So we'll see how that combat pretty much goes in this next round. And here's a close-up of his three Crypt Flayers, the Crimson Skies, charging directly into my Kurnoth Hunters. I'm kind of interested to see how this fight goes, to see how both these guys going to go out in their next combat phase. I decided to implant my roots that way that unit also has +1 up to the reroll their failed armor saves, so that should help them out here in the next combat. And here's a close-up of Rotshry getting in close combat, charging into close combat with Durthu, so we can see exactly how these guys go for the next combat. I'm kind of worried about this one because Durthu is carrying 9 wounds, and Rotshry is carrying 6, but still, Durthu's not exactly performing his top game, so we'll see how it ends up in the next combat phase. Alright, this is a photo of combat phase, after the combat phase, as well as battle shock as well. As you can see in that photo, we managed to kill off that Varghulf, the Beast of Bootfall, so he is now dead as well. However, a couple of my drives in the corner winners also managed to get cut down. I think about a third of those guys got lost through both combat as well as through battle shock as well. We managed to kill one of his Crypt Hunters, which was kind of nice as well, but the other guys basically stuck out for the battle shock, so that part's kind of rough. But then again, they're also undead, so they're not really going to go anywhere. So combat's still going on this side of the board. As you can see on this side of the board, close combat between the Rotshry as well as Durthu was actually kind of pretty hair-raising on that part. He managed to put additional wounds on top of him, almost put him the wound, almost killed him. He's one wound away from being dead. But looking for me though, between the massive slices that he got with his Elder Sword, especially being next to Sylvaneth Wildwood, really helped push it out. And the finishing in the final touch basically managed to finish off that Terrorgeist with the attack of his massive impaling talons and managed to finish him off with that part. So that part's kind of cool. But Durthu is pretty much out of action for the rest of this game because he's going to basically need to heal up now at this point. And close combat between the Crypt Flayers as well as my unit of Kurnoth Hunters is also pretty brutal as well. I only managed to put 2 wounds into those Crypt Flayers, and they managed to put 4 onto my guys as well. For whatever reason, I don't know sure why, but we put the 5 die down. It's not supposed to be a 5, it's actually supposed to be 4, so that Kurnoth Hunter is close to being dead. He's not dead yet, so I guess we made a mistake on that die. But anyways, the case may being, I managed to put the wounds on that part. Using the Great Bows on the Kurnoth Hunters, I do like using the Great Bows because it gives you a good range of combat, but when it comes to close combat though, those Crippling Talon attacks, I might have to rethink my deployment of these guys using Kurnoth Great Bows, but I don't know. We'll have to see on that part. But anyways, that's what's going on in combat on this side of the board. Alright, so this is the bottom of battle number 3 for the Sylvaneth. As you can see here, this is during the command phase. As you can see there, I basically did some maneuvering as well as some up another Wildwood up in the very top there on the right hand side. I put another Wildwood so that way now my forces are fully involved within the Sylvaneth Wildwood as well. I also use my battalion's ability for my free folk battalion, which is basically my Kurnoth Hunters as well as Durthu, that they can move during the command phase. They can't run, but they can do regular movement towards their enemies so long as they get closer towards their enemy subjects or towards a particular terrain feature. So you can see up there on the top and bottom of the page, I moved my Kurnoth Hunters and kind of enveloped both the Cryptors on the top as well as the Crypt Flayers on the bottom part. So that's what's going on here in the command phase on this portion. During the command phase, I also managed to use the Gift of Garan onto Durthu as well, managing to heal up another 3 more wounds, and now he's back down to 9 again, which is also kind of a bonus. I also managed to cast Arcane Bolt onto that unit of Cryptors as well, managed to inflict 3 mortal wounds on that guys as well, so that part is kind of nice as well. So with command phase over, we go directly into the movement phase. Alright, here's a photo of the battle after movement as well as shooting phase. I forgot to take individual photos for each one of those. I apologize again. I was really into this battle because this is a pretty close battle in my opinion with the amount of destruction that's going on. As you can see there on the top and those on the bottom, I basically move up my Kurnoth Hunters, and I also shoot during the shooting phase with my Kurnoth Hunters as well. Managed to kill off 2 of those Crypt Flayers, managed to get those guys to take down to 1 guy, so that way I could charge them in during the charging phase and finish up in combat. Also managed to kill one of the Crypt Hordes up at top as well, so there's only 3 more of those guys left over for us to deal with, and I move my Kurnoth Hunters up there to kind of envelop them with all the rest of their Dryads as well, so that they can charge into them and pretty much finish them off in the next round of combat. Here's a close-up of that unit of Crypt Flayers I'm planning on finishing off during the combat phase because my shooting was pretty much on point in this last phase. And here's a close-up of that unit of Crypt Horrors now being whittled down to size and getting developed fully involved by my Kurnoth Hunters as well as my Dryads. So combat phase is looking pretty good at this point. Alright, so here's the photo of after combat phase as well as the battle shock phase. You can see in this photo here, and basically none of the wounds that Crypt Flare got off on my Kurnoth Hunters in the front there, so the troop of Dawn is still doing pretty good. I still have one Kurnoth Hunter with 4 wounds floating on him still, so he's got one more left before he dies. Managed to inflict another wound as one of my other Kurnoth Hunters from the troop of Dusk as well, so that was kind of rough. But between the attacks in those two units, we managed to finish off that last of the Crypt Flares, so that guy is now gone. And here's another photo of combat on the top of the board after the battle shock phase as well. As you can see, that unit of Cryptors basically put a hurting on those units that engage with in close combat. My newly summoned a unit of Dryads got cut down to the last 2 guys, so that part was kind of rough. And the Court of Winters also got cut down to 5 guys as well after battle shock tests and everything. They also managed to put a wound on top of one of my Kurnoth Hunters in the process as well. However, through the return combat, we managed to cut down that entire unit of Cryptors, so that unit is now dead as well. So as you can see there, we have no more units engaged. I can basically now start reconstituting my forces, start reorganizing my guys for defense against the next phase of the combat. So with that being done, we go directly to the top of battle round number 5. Sorry, not battle round number 5. Battle round number 4. There we go. Alright, here's the top of battle round number 4 for the Flesh Eaters. They want initiative on this one. As you can see in this photo, there's a photo taken after both command as well as movement phases. Like I said before, everything just moves up as quickly as it possibly can in order to engage the combat in this part here. My opponent basically trying to move forward with his Terrorgeist as quick as he can. Flew him over to those forests and landed right there behind the Kurnoth Hunters. He's going to open up with his Death Streak on that part, and I'm actually kind of worried about that one. As you can see on the right hand side there, he moves up his Crypt Ghouls to kind of charge into my Kurnoth Hunters located on the bottom of the page. So that makes a command and movement on the side of the board. Now this photo is both a combination of the charge phase as well as the shooting phase, and the reason why is because during the shooting phase, my opponent's dice basically abandoned him on that part. He rolled up on his 6-sided dice. I think he got like a 7 or an 8. I forgot which one it was, but he managed to only put off one on top wound on top of one of my Kurnoth Hunters as well, so I got really lucky on that part. My opponent's dice just kind of quit on him in the middle of the battle round number 4, because in the following charge phase, basically he failed all of his charges. It wasn't able to charge him with his Shigoi Ghoul King on his Terrorgeist, was unable to charge him with his Crypt Ghouls, charges went nowhere on that part, so that pretty much sums up his round for this part. So I got off very lucky on this part. Alright, this is the bottom of battle round number 4 for the Sylvaneth. This is both after the both command phase as well as movement phase. I apologize for the blurriness of this picture, but as you can see in this portion here, basically I use the command here at the hero phase to start moving some of my troops using my Free Folk Battalion rules. As you can see there, I lined up my Kurnoth Hunters getting ready to charge in that massive unit of Crypt Ghouls coming my way as well. As you can see, I also move up Durthu as well as Cordell to help kind of lend support for my Kurnoth Hunters there on the top to deal with that oncoming Terrorgeist as well. So that pretty much makes the command as well as the movement phase on this one. In the shooting phase, after we got done with movement and everything else like that, as you can see in my Kurnoth Hunters, luckily for me, that Terrorgeist was in range of all 3 of my Kurnoth Hunter units, as well as Durthu and Codil. Between the units, those 5 units opening up on that Terrorgeist, we managed to put that guy directly into the dirt, which is kind of cool because once that happened, my opponent basically lost his religion on that part. He basically kind of gave up at that point. As you can see on this page, that's basically what makes up the end of the game. As you can see there, he still has his 3 units of Crypt Wars left over, but his troops are so far away and out of position that by the time he finally does catch up to my troops, my guys will whittle him down with Whistle Fire and finish him off in close combat. I pointed that as well. So this is where my buddy Screamer Emo decides to call the game at this point. So there you go. As you can see there, I still got a lot of my units left over. Still got 3 units of Flesh Eaters as well. So all in all, pretty rough game. My battle reports usually don't go this long when it comes to the rounds when I'm fighting with Sylvaneth. I'm usually pretty much done by turn number 3 in most cases, but this one actually went to battle round 4 and possibly could have gone to battle round 5 and 6 as well, but my buddy was just kind of like done with the grind fest at that point and basically just wanted to move on. So yeah, that makes it the end of the game. With that, we go directly to the after action report.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the after action report. This is part of the battle report. We talk about what went well, what went poor, and then what we can learn from the next time we do battle. This is the after action report for Age of the Realms. Battle report number 14 is a 2,000 point battle between myself with my Wild Hunt of my Sylvaneth army versus Scream of the Emo with his House of Von Koss with his Flesh Eater Quartz army. So let's go and talk about some of the things that happened during this battle. First of all, maneuverability saved me in this battle, especially when it meant saving Durthu from getting devoured really helped out as well. My ability to teleport from one side of the board to the next is really important. This one. One of the facets and the ideologies behind Age of Sigmar is that movement is extremely important now during this game because now everybody kind of moves around at their own pace. You can teleport guys from one board edge to another part, so maneuverability is very, very important now with the Age of Sigmar, and that ability to move about with my movement shenanigans using Sylvaneth Wildwoods is very, very helpful as always. And once again, it's also insane how well Tree Song works at depriving your enemy of getting a grips to you too as well. That part's really, really important as well. Tree Song, because most of your units are tied up with Sylvaneth Wildwoods, you can, like I said before, you could actually deprive your enemy of actually getting in combat with you and actually moving guys around and keeping them away from your forces. That way you kind of pick and choose your fights and kind of help you on that part. So that's really helping as well. Fast moving, hitting and fleeing, guerrilla style warfare is the best way of using this army. It's the best kind of tactics you can use. Depriving your enemy of combat, engaging when they're weak, moving them around to areas that they're exposed, all that kind of thing as well. Once again, I might rethink using Great Bows for my Kurthon Hunters, and the only reason why I would not get why I wouldn't use great swords or great scythes with my Kurnoth Hunters is because with the great bows they do get a chance to attack twice. If you think about it, they get to shoot once during the shooting phase and also get to clack during close combat as well, which is really, really helpful. Helps kind of balance them out, makes it a little bit more versatile. But at the same time though, this game is made or broken during the combat phase, so something I might have to take a look at. I might have to maybe think about dividing up between using different items. I'm not sure yet. I still have to think about that part. And same thing with my battalions as well. I'm also thinking about changing my battalions, maybe only using 2 of my battalions and redeploying a different list for next time, just because my Branch Wraith and my Branch Witch are kind of helpful, and the Trio of Evidence are kind of nice, but at the same time, though, they're also kind of expensive, and also I could probably use those points for better things, maybe getting more Kurnoth Hunters instead, and that way I can definitely change it the way I use my loadouts for those guys. I don't know, it's too soon to tell, so I might have to take a look at that part as well. This was a pretty close game in my opinion as well. The reason why I was so close is because of that ability to use the Sword of Unholy Power. That is a very good and very dangerous magical item to give to any one of your undead players. If you're playing a Deathgrand Allegiance army and you're not using the Sword of Unholy Power on your characters to summon up something like a Terrorgeist, Strigoi King on a Terrorgeist, you're not doing things right. You basically have to rethink that as well. And it was actually a pretty close game for me, even though I won this one. I felt like it was pretty close because my opponent was putting the pressure on me the entire time. He was always advancing, depriving me of my Sylvaneth Wildwoods with his carrion pits, heading towards me at all times, not letting me let up whatsoever. I kept on swarming with his Terrorgeists. Pretty tough. I'm not usually used to fighting on the back foot because pretty much I was fighting defensively this entire time. My opponent, Swimmer the Emo, was basically setting the pace of the entire battle. Nowhere really was I actually making things happen. I was reacting to what he was doing the entire time. So very, very different kind of game for me. And as always, it's fun as always because, like I said, if you win all the time and you just win kind of easily, it gets kind of boring. It's kind of fun because being on the back pedal was kind of a new feeling for me, and I really like the challenge in that part. So that was pretty awesome as well. Once again, awesome battle report, great opponent, great army to go up against. Every single time I go against this Eternal Pit battalion, I'm always like on the back foot and always like trying to think how I'm going to survive against it and make a lot of mistakes, like not taking photos, for example, is one of those things. So it's kind of nice. So yeah, that pretty much rounds it up for this After Action report. Once again, please feel free to like, subscribe, put in your input there in the comments. All the feedback and the feedback and the back and forth between the comments is really helping me out, really making these battle reports even better, and just making sure you guys enjoy them. So yeah, that pretty much puts it for the books for this one. This is the end of Age of the Realms battle report number 14. As always, we'll be alternating every other Sunday between Age of Sigmar as well the Ninth Age. We also will be alternating every Thursday between Necromunda and 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy. And yeah, you guys stay classy, internet. See you guys later.